studio microphone. Have you ever boarded a flight and felt like someone or something was watching you? What if I told you that on certain flights in the 1970s, people did feel that, and some even claimed to see the faces of the dead looking back at them? Today, we're diving into one of the most haunting and infamous aviation ghost stories in history, the chilling case of Eastern Airlines Flight 401. This isn't just your average ghost story. It involved a real plane crash, verified airline employees, and documented reports of ghostly apparitions that were so convincing, the airline allegedly tried to keep everything hush-hush. Strap in, because this is going to be one bumpy ride into the paranormal. Section 1. The Crash of Flight. Let's start at the beginning. It was the night of December 29th, 1972. Eastern Airlines Flight 401, a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, was making its final descent into Miami International Airport. The crew on board were seasoned professionals, including Captain Bob Loft, First Officer Bert Stockstill, and Flight Engineer Don Repo. But something seemingly minor, a burnout landing gear indicator light, threw everything into chaos. While trying to fix the bulb, the crew got distracted. What they didn't realize was that the autopilot had been accidentally disengaged, and the plane was slowly descending into the Everglades. At 11:42 p.m., the aircraft crashed into the swamp. Of the 176 people on board, 101 died, including both Loft and Repo. Now, here's where things start to get strange. Section 2. The haunting begins. Not long after the crash, something eerie started happening. Eastern Airlines had salvaged parts from Flight 401 and installed them into other L-1011 aircrafts. Shortly after, crew members and passengers began reporting sightings of ghostly figures, specifically those of Captain Loft and Don Repo. Ghost flight attendants claimed to see Repo's reflection staring back at them from ovens. Pilots saw Loft walking the aisles before takeoff, only for him to vanish into thin air. In some instances, these apparitions even spoke. One flight engineer reported seeing Repo in the cockpit, saying, "You don't need to worry about the pre-flight. I've already done it." Passengers would scream, claiming to see a uniformed man vanish into thin air. One senior flight attendant swore she saw Repo fixing a galley oven that later turned out to be installed from Flight 401. Are you getting chills yet? Because it gets even weirder. Section 3. The corporate cover-up? So here's where the conspiracy theories start bubbling up. Allegedly, Eastern Airlines tried to suppress these stories. Employees were warned not to discuss the sightings. Officially, Eastern denied everything. But quietly, they removed the salvaged parts, and guess what? The sightings stopped. Man detective, now ask yourself, why would an airline quietly remove parts from functioning aircraft if there wasn't something going on? It raises the question, were they trying to avoid mass hysteria, or did they genuinely fear these encounters? Let me know in the comments. Do you think Eastern was trying to cover something up, or was it just coincidence? Section 4. Eyewitness accounts. Let's talk about eyewitness credibility. These weren't your average thrill-seeking ghost hunters. These were trained professionals, pilots, engineers, and flight attendants with thousands of hours in the air. They knew the difference between stress and hallucination. One particularly creepy account involved a flight attendant preparing for takeoff when she saw Captain Loft sitting among the passengers in first class. She approached him, only for him to vanish before her eyes. Another flight crew refused to take off until they removed a certain oven installed from Flight 401. They said Repo was inside it. I mean, can you imagine having to explain that to maintenance? And even more chilling, when shown photos of the deceased, new employees were able to identify Loft and Repo, despite never having met them. They would say things like, "That's the man I saw in the cockpit," or "That's the guy in the galley." Section 5. The paranormal debate. Skeptics, of course, have explanations: stress, survivor's guilt, mass hysteria. But believers argue that the number of consistent, credible sightings is too high to ignore. Let's break it down. Most sightings happened only on aircrafts with parts from Flight 401. When those parts were removed, the sighting stopped. The apparitions were identified correctly by name and rank by people who never met them. Performing arts, some theorists even suggest the spirits of Loft and Repo were trying to protect future passengers, almost like guardians of the skies. Could they have been warning crews of mechanical failures? Some say yes. And this brings up a powerful idea. Can trauma linger in machinery? Can the soul remain tethered to something as cold and technical as airplane parts? It's a spooky thought. Section 6. Pop Culture and Legacy. Flight 401's ghost story became so legendary, it inspired books like The Ghost of Flight 401 by John G. Fuller, a TV movie in 1978 starring Ernest Borgnine and Kim Basinger, multiple documentaries and YouTube channels diving into the mystery. Even The Twilight Zone and Unsolved Mysteries drew inspiration from these events. To this day, pilots still reference the case. It's part of aviation lore, a reminder that sometimes not everything on a flight is listed on the manifest. Closing thoughts. So what do you believe? Was it the tragic crash and trauma, imprinting residual energy? Was it psychological stress, playing tricks on highly trained minds? Or were Captain Loft and Don Repo really watching over the skies one last time? Airplane, I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your take in the comments. Have you ever had a paranormal experience while traveling? And if you loved this deep dive into the supernatural skies, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another eerie upload. Until next time, keep your seatbelt fastened, your eyes open, and remember, some passengers may never truly disembark. Studio microphone, this was the mysterious ghost of Flight 401.